Hi everybody. Happy Thursday. KCRA3 meteorologist Heather Waldman. For those that were sitting on the chat for the last couple of minutes, thanks for bearing with me while I adjusted the screen a little bit. Still getting used to our little live streaming process here. If you're new to these weather chats, this is just a fun space for you to ask your questions about the forecast, about anything climate related, and our weather team just ran our second wildfire special of the season that ended about 15 minutes ago. So if you had a chance to watch that, would love to hear your feedback. I watched it here in the newsroom. And as always, proud of the stories that our weather team put together. Everyone sort of divided and conquered. We had the important life-saving information, but I also learn things. I learn things from my teammates every time we do one of these sort of group project type things. So hopefully you learn a lot too. If you missed our Wildfire Ready special, it's posted now at kcra.com. We're going to, of course, share the individual stories on our pages too. I've got the Facebook page open right next to me, so as you think of questions related to the weather, put them in there. I will do my best to stop down, check in on some of those questions, see what you guys are thinking. Especially with it being a holiday weekend. I know I'm going to be staying put, but maybe some of you are traveling. We'll take a look at the national outlook. We'll take a look at a fire burning in Fresno County. It's been really cooking for the last couple of days. Maybe some of you saw the smoke earlier today. Didn't have air quality issues, and I don't think we will, at least for areas, say, Modesto northward. But I do think smoke is going to be visible from time to time just with the environment where this fire is burning. So we'll talk a little bit about that as well. But let's dig in here. Where should we start? Well, if you're watching from the Sierra, today was certainly a much more pleasant day to be outdoors. For the first day in a little while, the radar is clear. So we got some beneficial rain in the mountains. Yesterday I was looking around at some of the numbers. I think there were some spots around Tahoe Donner, over towards Mammoth, the Walker area, over an inch of rain. They were kind of isolated pockets of where the rainfall was actually beneficial, but always nice to get the rain in the summer. Adds moisture to the ground, especially when we've got lightning. Thousands of lightning strikes in the mountains over the last couple of days, and yeah, there were some lightning-related fires. The biggest of which, one burning in western Siskiyou County and another, the Garnet Fire. That's the one I think you're going to be hearing most about. Well, that's burning in eastern Fresno County. So here's our satellite loop, and yeah, kind of bear with it. This covers the last 3 hours, and obviously with the sun going down, we lose some of the daylight there. But yeah, look at all the smoke moving across Fresno County, up into Mariposa County, eventually Tuolumne County. So kind of smoky skies over Yosemite today. Some areas of poor air quality, especially along the Sierra Crest into Mono County, the 395 corridor, into Bishop, probably up into the Walker area. That's where the air quality was kind of suffering for just a little bit. But here's what our smoke model is showing. For anybody with outdoor plans, say Modesto, Stockton, Sacramento, South Lake Tahoe, doesn't look like the near surface smoke, at least for the next 24 hours, is going to be an issue. But the big caveat with these smoke models is that it's going based off of the smoke that's being put up by the fire. It's very tough to predict, exactly what a fire is going to do, especially more than 24 hours out, which is why we check back in with this day to day. But you can see, at least this model keeps the near surface smoke, the smoke that would deteriorate air quality, it keeps that up into Fresno County, occasionally drifting up into southern Mono County and into parts of Inyo County there as well. So if you do have plans for the holiday weekend, maybe around Mammoth Lakes, just keep that in mind. If you're headed to Fresno, if you're headed to Yosemite, the smoke may be a little bit of a nuisance for you there. All right, so that is the Garnet Fire. Let's talk a little bit about the holiday weekend. I'm going to refresh the comments here, see if anybody is checking in. I'm up on the KCRA Facebook page, by the way. We're also streaming on YouTube, still working on figuring out how to get those live comments up and running. Judy's asking me to go way ahead. She's asking if we will have an early winter. Well, here's kind of some people are going to think I'm kind of copping out here. I mean, the simple answer is that especially in Northern California, what we get in the summer is not a good predictor of what we'll get in the winter, right? We had an exceptionally hot summer last year. Winter actually kind of showed up on time and things were all good. This summer we started off on the cooler side, June into July. Now we're working in a little bit of late season heat. I think that heat's going to stick around into September, and we'll dig into that here in a little bit. But as far as an early start to winter, well, let's put it this way. I don't see any substantial chances for rain for us in the forecast models that we do have, which cover out to 2 weeks. So, seasonal forecasting is certainly not my forte, but it's always tricky here in Northern California in particular. So we'll just kind of wait and see there. But September is going to be starting off with a little bit of heat. So Judy, thanks for your question. Stumping me already. If anybody has any specific questions about the next 7 days, I can certainly get you a better answer there. All right, back to Labor Day weekend for Northern California. If you've been watching the forecast over the last couple of days, you've been watching it carefully. If you have any outdoor plans, you've probably noticed, we've been ticking these numbers up little by little. I think Saturday and Sunday especially. Some valley spots will be pretty darn close to 100 degrees. The foothills staying in the upper 80s to low 90s. Good news for the Sierra, it is going to be dry. We'll have light winds, so if you're going to be doing any boating on Tahoe or any of the other alpine lakes, I think it's going to be great weather to get out on the water. And of course, this time of the year, the water actually feels pretty refreshing up there. It's had some time to warm up a little bit, so upper 70s to mid 80s. What about if you're heading elsewhere, if you're leaving California? Well, here's a national picture right now. Cold front moving across the Great Lakes, kind of making it feel like fall. I know there were some spots in the Great Lakes in the interior Northeast that didn't make it out of the 60s today. The holiday weekend will be a little bit warmer there. Middle part of the country will be watching for some scattered thunderstorms. So we'll pull up our model here. So this is noon on Saturday. That's noon Pacific time. So for the Central Time Zone, that's going to be, 2 o'clock? And for the East Coast, that's going to be 3 o'clock in the afternoon. There will be some scattered thunderstorms that pop up. This model, because it's a longer range model, it doesn't resolve the individual thunderstorms, so this isn't going to be a giant swath of rain, but just gives you the idea that it'll be kind of unsettled from the northern plains through central Texas, the Panhandle, and along the Gulf Coast into parts of the southeast. That's Saturday. By Sunday, not a lot changes. If you're going to be staying on the West Coast, it's going to be dry this weekend. If you have a flight to Seattle or Portland or maybe even Denver, I don't think you're going to have any issues. In and out of Vegas looks good too. Connecting flights in Dallas, Minneapolis, Denver, maybe some weather-related delays. I know my favorite little piece of travel advice is to book the early flights if you can. That's coming from a meteorologist, especially this time of the year. Because the greatest risk for thunderstorms is in the middle part of the afternoon. You get a thunderstorm over the airport, that's where you're going to get some delays. So, little piece of unsolicited travel advice there. Always book the early flight if you can. You're less likely to run into some issues there. All right, so that was a quick peek at the national forecast. If you've been paying attention to our forecast here locally over the last couple of days, and you look ahead to next week, we added some 100s in there today. This was kind of a big change from what we were thinking even just a couple of days ago. And I know Dirk and I working the evenings, we did our best to convey the idea that there's a lot of uncertainty for next week because there's this little area of low pressure that was spinning off the coast and the models weren't quite sure where that was going to set up. At first it looked like it was going to set up in just the right spot to keep our onshore breeze going, keep our temperatures comfortable. Now it's going to be a little bit farther to the north, and we're going to have a little bit more room for some of that heat to move in. So here's what that setup looked like. Our models were showing, again, this nice area of low pressure off the coast, jet stream flow kind of moving right over Northern California, keeping the onshore breeze going. And the high with the heat with it, well, that was staying off to the east. But the caveat there was the uncertainty that came with it. Now that we're a little bit closer, it is looking like that low, and the cool air with it is going to stay farther up to the north. While this high, it's going to be kind of setting up shop for the next few days. So you can check our forecast anytime, kcra.com or on the KCRA app, but I'll show it to you here. Tuesday and Wednesday I think are the days we're most likely to hit 100, but if you're looking closely, Saturday, Sunday, Thursday. These numbers are for Sacramento, which, we get the onshore breeze, and I do think a lot of these days we will. It tends to be one of the cooler spots. You go north, you go south, you go east into the valley, you'll add a couple of degrees. So safe to say, I think there may be some spots this weekend that do get close to 100, but I think the best chance for the entire valley to be 100 plus is getting into next week. And of course, September starts on Monday. This has been one of those summers. Maybe it's because, for the first half of the summer it was so comfortable, so easy weather-wise. I feel like this summer's gone really fast. But for those thinking, ooh, September, hundreds, it's not unusual at all. In fact, the last couple of summers we've had plenty of 100-degree days in September. I went back through and looked at the National Weather Service data for Executive Airport, and the average last 100-degree day, for the past 30 years anyway, is September 8th. So about another week and a half from now. Does that mean that's the magic off button? No, of course not. The latest 100-degree day we've recorded at Executive Airport, that was sometime in mid-October. Hopefully it doesn't go that late. Last year we did start October. I think the entire first week for Sacramento, for Stockton, was full of 100s. It's too soon to say if that's what we're going to see this time around, but at least for this September, we are going to be starting off with some heat. So I just want to pull up one more thing here. One thing I like to do, especially on quieter weather days, I like looking for little stats that kind of add to the forecast a bit here. Excuse my blundering around with the window here for a second. Come on. This isn't really cooperating. Just a moment. This is how you know this is all done 100% live. There we go. All right, so I was curious. So far this year, the highest temperature recorded at Executive Airport was 103 degrees. We did that this past weekend, Saturday or Friday, I believe, 22nd. I looked up the hottest temperature for each of the previous 10 years. First thing you might notice is that 103 this year, that's the lowest. In fact, if it stays at 103, that would be the lowest peak temperature for a year since 2011. So it's just another stat to kind of show how mild this summer overall has been. I know it's been warmer lately, but yeah, if our peak temperature were to stay below 105, we're doing pretty good there. But the other thing I marked down was, what was the date of that highest temperature? And what also stands out is that 2022 was the only year where the hottest temperature of the year occurred in September. That was at 114 for Executive Airport. That same year, downtown Sacramento hit 116. That was our all-time record, at least in recorded history. So, what do we take away from this? Well, the odds are in our favor that our hottest day is behind us. Does that guarantee that our hottest day is behind us? No, especially since the bar this year is relatively low. But in looking at next week's heat, it doesn't look like anything extreme. We're not talking about records, but we are talking about a couple of days with temperatures near or above 100 degrees for a lot of valley spots. Schools are back in session, after-school sports, any kind of outdoor activity in the afternoon if you work outside. Yeah, we're still planning around that heat, still making sure we're staying hydrated, sports drinks, breaks in the shade, breaks in the air conditioning, all that good stuff. You know the drill by now. But as far as tomorrow goes, it's going to feel a lot like where we were today. So all in all, not too bad. And what's nice about this time of the year too is we still get the onshore breeze, and I do think we'll see that most days next week. So while the afternoons are hot and will be 100 degrees for maybe 1 to 3 hours depending on where you are, the overnights will cool off pretty well, which means the first few hours of the day are still going to be relatively comfortable. All right, refreshing the Facebook page here, checking in on some of the comments. All right, we got to Judy's comment. Sally says a little heat for a couple of days is okay. It's those 5 to 10 or more days that gets really hard. Yeah, when we have a week of heat, that's tough on everybody, right? It's tough on the people that work outside. It's tough on anybody that just wants to go outside. It's tough on us here in the weather department, finding different ways to talk about the heat. I like to joke it doesn't take that long to say it's hot, and there's only so many ways you can say it's hot. So yeah, we've been really lucky. Our longest heat wave for Sacramento is 4 days. I think Stockton's right around 4 days as well. Marysville's in similar territory, so kind of another metric to show how mild and relatively easy the summer has been. All right. Sally also saying it looks decent for Indy, for NHRA US Nationals, and the NASCAR races in Darlington. Let's check in on that. Personally, I'm not too familiar with NASCAR, but I know where Indianapolis is. I'm a big college football fan, so I'm excited that that's coming back this weekend. I'm a Penn State grad, so they have Nevada this weekend. Should be a fun game. All right, what was I going to bring up? My graphics get all jumbled up at this time of the day, and it takes me a minute to find everything after doing a couple of newscasts. There we go. All right, so Sally was talking about the forecast for Indy. So here's Saturday, and yeah, Indy right here, clear, comfortable. Same thing for Sunday, Labor Day on Monday. Yeah, it looks good for racing. Temperatures should be pretty comfortable for the fans too, with relatively cool air for this time of the year, hanging out in that area. So all good there. Nice to see it. All right, thanks for your question, Sally. I appreciate you chiming in. Let's see if we got any more questions while I was chit-chatting for a little bit. All right, not seeing anything pressing. Still a fair amount to talk about here in the world of weather, even with warm, sunny days. We've got the fire in eastern Fresno County, the Garnet Fire. It's been going for a few days, and this one's probably going to go for a while, too. It's already at 15,000 acres, which means the perimeter's getting bigger, harder for firefighters to hem in. But as far as Northern California goes, things are pretty quiet, so it's been good as far as that goes. Otherwise, the main storyline weather-wise, it's going to be the late season heat just kind of building in. Upper 90s for a couple days, then a few days in the 100s. Hopefully we'll get something a little more comfortable later on. With that in mind, let's check in on one of the models we can use to kind of scope that out. I'll show you the latest run here. This came in about 2 or 3 o'clock this afternoon. Next model update comes in about an hour or so. So what you're looking at here is sort of the heart of different weather systems. We're looking at about 30,000 feet up in the air or so, so pretty close to the jet stream. Area of low pressure here off the coast. Bubble of high pressure here. This is the Four Corners in case it's a little bit tough for anybody to see. Scan this around here so that I can advance the timing. Where are the buttons to loop? There we go. Oop. Let's do that one. There we go. That's what I was looking for. Okay. So here's our setup right now. The heat is off to our south and east. This is the low that could have brought us some more comfortable weather, but yep, that's going to be too far off to the north. We do have a little bit of an onshore flow here. This is Monday afternoon, so already getting into Labor Day. Notice how the wind flow here goes a little bit more southerly. Could start to get into a little bit of monsoon moisture for the Sierra Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday of next week, but yeah, look at this ridge. That's going to bring heat for the Pacific Northwest. It's going to bring heat for California. This is next Wednesday, so it's one of the days that we have pegged as a 100-degree day, one of our impact days. Yep, and this ridge is still, it starts to bend in a little bit. This is Thursday night into Friday of next week, so a week out from now. Yeah, we start to get a little bit more onshore flow by next Sunday, so now we're now we're getting out beyond where there's any kind of reliability. So what I take away from that is I would count on all of next week, at least the work week, having warmer than normal temperatures. I'd say through at least Thursday. Normal high temperature for Sacramento right now is in the lower 90s. By next weekend, maybe we'll get a little bit more of an onshore breeze, a little more comfortable, maybe feeling a little bit more like football weather. The NFL starting on Thursday, so that's exciting. Yeah, I don't see any significant cooling once we get beyond next week, just kind of looking at that. But anytime you can increase the onshore breeze in September, that at least bodes a little bit better for maybe something low 90s, maybe a few days in the upper 80s. So we'll see how that evolves as we get closer. But going back to Judy's original question of any kind of early winter, yeah, that kind of setup certainly doesn't bring any hints of anything like that, at least through the first week or so of September. Okay, been going on for about 20 minutes here. Thanks to everybody who joined in for this little live weather chat. This is something we're gonna hopefully try and keep going. Tuesdays and Thursdays seem to work pretty well for me for now. Around 8:15, Facebook, YouTube. Remember to go and check out our KCRA3 Wildfire special that aired earlier this evening. We've got the link posted at kcra.com. You can watch it on our YouTube channel there as well. Always looking for feedback on that to make sure we're bringing you guys the information that you need for fire season. But until Tuesday, enjoy your Labor Day weekend. If your weekend starts tomorrow, lucky you. Enjoy. If you have outdoor plans, be ready for the warmth, but of course, should be used to that by now. If you're going to be doing any boating, make sure everybody's safe, make sure everybody's sober, everybody's got the life jackets, especially the kids, and enjoy. Talk to you soon.